Welcome back to my channel. This is the second video. If you watched the first video, you were looking forward to learning the handwriting portion of the comprehensive reading instruction method. And so that's what I'm going to teach you today. You will notice that I always try to put the chapter markers in so you can continue to watch this at your leisure. I certainly understand learning something takes a while, and so I'm here to teach you because I don't want you to be overwhelmed. I want you to be successful in teaching reading. This is the method I've used, and I'm going to be giving you the tips that helped me be successful. I want to give you a direction to go. I want to give you a focus because reading is such an important skill. And it is a learned skill, which means other people have done it before, so you can too. So I'm glad you're here, and I'm going to get right down to business because we're learning how to teach reading, and our students are waiting. Number one, the handwriting is the key. You need to teach all the phonograms through handwriting. But teaching the 26 single letter phonograms will be the hardest because for beginners, they've never been taught how to write. So I'm going to teach this as though my students were 5 or 6 year olds. And this can be taught to anyone because these are the directions you use to write English. And you'll find out as you see me, the method I teach is very methodical, and when you walk around a classroom you can see who's doing it, and of course you are remembering. You're going to practice till you get it right, and then you're going to keep going until you can't get it wrong. So you keep going. Remember, this is a method that will be perfected in use. So you're getting started with the comprehensive phonics method, teaching handwriting. And this is the most beautiful thing because the vocabulary words are on one page. You're going to teach the 6 strokes to the English language, and you're going to learn the guidelines. So let's get started. We're going to learn the clock stroke, the short stroke, the tall stroke, the short stroke with the tail, the angle stroke, and the horizontal stroke. And I will be giving you the guidelines, the top line, the bottom line, and the midline. Now, when I was teaching, I said the waistline because you bend over at the waist, so that's the dotted waistline. But remember, I taught kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade. And I even taught my children in literally a little sandbox so they could trace the letters in the sand. So all levels of learners can learn the phonograms through writing, whether you're writing in the sand, writing on a blank sheet of paper, writing on a lined paper of any style. The goal is to get correct handwriting because as they learn the correct handwriting and the correct sounds, you are linking the parts of learning to read. So without further ado, let's begin. The first stroke is the clock stroke. So you'll notice I haven't even pulled out my phonogram cards yet because the clock stroke is the most difficult. I teach it literally using a blank clock faces. Now, because the clock stroke is taught counterclockwise, you literally make the clock stroke going counterclockwise. We use the clock to give direction. Now, we're going to learn how to make the clock stroke, and I want you to circle the 1 o'clock, and then the 11 o'clock, then the 7 o'clock, the 5 o'clock, and then back to the 1. Now, let's try to use those numbers and draw the clock stroke. This time, rather than circling the numbers, let's start at the 1 o'clock. Trace the curve of the clock over to the 11, down to the 7, back to the 5, and continue on around till you finish the curve of the clock. This is the direction you need to have the students use to make the clock stroke. And notice if there's mistakes, the direction of the clock stroke is the most important. Start at the 1, over to the 11, down to the 7, back to the 5, and finish at the 1 o'clock. The numbers are simply guidelines. Now let's use this clock stroke to continue to teach the other strokes. Now we're going to use the lined paper to write our strokes. Now remember, I want you to draw a horizontal stroke. Horizontal just means trace the line across, and we're going to trace the line across from left to right. That's the direction we read and write. So I want you to draw a horizontal stroke across the top line. Now make a horizontal stroke across the midline. Now make a horizontal stroke across the bottom line in the direction that we read and write. Now, tall letters start at the top line. Short letters start at the bottom line. And short letters start at the midline. And short letters start at the midline. And all letters stop at the bottom line except those that have a tail. Now, let me show you the 6 strokes. And let's go with the clock letter. Now, we learned how to make it on the clock. We're going to make 2 kinds of clock letters just to get practice using the guidelines. We're going to make the tall clock stroke. Now, I want you to draw a little dot where you can imagine the 1 o'clock would be on a clock. And I want you to draw a little dot where you can imagine there's an 11 o'clock and the 7 and the 5. See, kind of make a little 4 dots. Now we're going to connect the dots by starting at the 1 o'clock, up and curve at the top line, slowly curve around the 11, the 7, back to the 5, and remember to complete the clock stroke, finish at the 1 o'clock. And then, of course, we practice a whole row. Now we're going to make the short clock stroke. Let's make those little dots again. Imagine where there's a 1 o'clock. Imagine where there's an 11 o'clock. Imagine a 7 and imagine a 5. This is a short clock stroke because it starts below the midline. So you've got to start below the midline at the 1 o'clock, curve up and over to the 11, down to the 7, back to the 5, and finish at the 1. You've made a clock stroke. Now we're going to make the other 5 strokes. Let's make the short stroke. We start at the midline and go down to the bottom line. Short stroke down, start at the midline, stop at the bottom line, short stroke down, start at the midline, down to the bottom line. Now let's make a tall stroke. Tall stroke start at the top line and down to the bottom line. Let's make a tall stroke. Start at the top line, down to the bottom line. That's a tall stroke. So we've made the clock stroke, the short stroke, and the tall stroke. Now the other 3. Let's make the short stroke with a tail. So we're going to start at the midline because it's short. Start at the midline, and it's a short stroke with a tail into the basement. Let's make a short stroke with a tail into the basement. And now that is the short stroke with a tail. We're going to make the horizontal stroke on the midline. Let's start on the midline, start at the left, and go from left to right. Just a short horizontal stroke on the midline. We're not going to make it on the top line or the bottom line because we know the guidelines now. We're just making the horizontal stroke from left to right. And the last one you've got to the end is the angle stroke. We're going to start at the midline and angle down to the bottom line. Start at the middle line, angle down to the bottom line. That's the angle stroke. Now these are the 6 strokes that I will say when we're making the letters. Now you're ready to write all 26 letters of the alphabet. Now we're going to start with the clock letters because they all use the clock stroke. Okay. The first clock letter, look at the phonogram card. This phonogram has 4 sounds and they are ah, o, oo. Now can you say it? Ah, o, oo. Now let's write it. Now I want you to watch me. Remember, it's a clock letter. So we're going to start below the midline. It's a short letter. This is a short letter. And so we're going to start below the midline, go up and curve over to the 11, around to the 7 and back to the 5 and finish at the 1. And while we do that, we're going to say ah, curve up and over to the 11, oh, curve down to the 7, ah, back to the 5, ooh, ah, oh, ooh. Those 4 numbers then can help you say the 4 sounds as you write ah, oh, ooh. Now you notice they're not in alphabetical order because I'm teaching you from simple to harder. Because the next phonogram is ah, ah. Look at this phonogram. This phonogram is how we see it when we read books. This is how a typewriter writes it. Ah, ah. It has 4 sounds. Ah, ah. Now you say it. Now we're going to write it. This is a clock letter. So remember how we start a clock letter, and this is also a short letter. So we're going to start at the 1 o'clock, up and over to the 11, down to the 7, back to the 5, and finish at the 1. But it has a short, this is a clock stroke with a short stroke. So you're going to, at the 1 o'clock, go back up and touch the midline and pull that short stroke down to the bottom line. You don't have to pick up your pencil. This has a letter that when we write it with our handwriting, it is a clock stroke with a short stroke. 2 strokes together. Watch again. We're going to make the clock stroke start at the 1, over to the 11, round to the 7, back to the 5. And then when you get to the 1, you're going to pull that short stroke up to the midline and then pull that short stroke down to the bottom line. Ah, ah. Now you try. 2 sounds. This is also a clock letter, but this is easy because look, it's not a complete clock stroke. We start at the 1 o'clock, curve up and over to the 11, down to the 7, but we stop at the 5. Say it as you write it. Now you try. D. This says D. Now remember, D. When you say D, I want you to feel your mouth. Your mouth is open. D. And it actually makes a circle. I want you to use your finger to trace your mouth. D. And look, there's a clock stroke first and then the stick. So this is a clock stroke with a tall stroke. 2 strokes together make the D sound. And D, your mouth is open, so we make the clock stroke first. Now let's try. D, D. Start at the 1 o'clock. It's a clock letter, up and over to the 11, down to the 7, back to the 5. And then you're going to go back to the 1, but this is a short stroke with a tall stroke. So you're going to go up to the top line and then pull that top stroke down. D. Make the short clock stroke. And then when you get back to the 1 o'clock, you're going to pull the line right up to the top line and back down to the bottom line. That's how you make the tall stroke, up and down. D. Now you try. G, j. 2 sounds. G, j. Now when you say the g, j, it is a clock letter with a short stroke and a tail. And look, this we're going to call our little monkey's tail because there's a little tail hanging down from the tree. This is a short letter with a tail. Short stroke with a tail and a clock stroke. 2 strokes together. So we're going to make the clock stroke first. Remember, you start at the 1 o'clock, going all the way around, making your clock stroke, stopping at the 1, but then you're going to make the short stroke up to the midline, short stroke with the tail down into the basement, and then make the cute little monkey curve. Now, watch again. You're going to make the clock stroke all around the clock, making that beautiful curve back to the 1 o'clock, but now we're going to make our short stroke up and back down into the basement, and then the monkey curve. G, j. Make the clock stroke. G. Make the short stroke with the tail. J. Now you try. Okay, look at this single letter phonogram. Wait a minute, teacher. There's 2 letters there. You know why? Because the Q needs a friend. He needs you. Do you know why? The Q is always followed by you. The Q is always followed by you. Can you say that rule? The Q is always followed by you. And that's when I teach the first spelling rule. Now, let's write the k. It has 2 sounds because the Q actually says k and the U actually says w. Like in queen, queen. Can you say queen and unique? Queen, unique. Now let's write the k. Now it's a clock. The first letter is a clock letter with a short stroke and a tail. So we're going to make the clock letter. It's a short letter, so it's a short clock stroke first. So make that beautiful curve going around, and when you get to the 1, you're going to go up and touch the midline and pull that short stroke down into the basement. But the Q has a little serif because the queen is fancy. It's like she's throwing her hair behind her. And Q is always followed by U. U has a short stroke. Remember, short strokes start at the midline, touch the bottom line, and then you're going to curve around, back up to the midline, and pull the short stroke down again. Q needs U. 2 short strokes with a curve in the middle. U. Q is always followed by U. Let's try it again. Make your clock stroke. When you get to the 1 o'clock, you're going to go up, make the short stroke up. Short stroke with a tail into the basement and the serif. And then Q is always followed by U. Short stroke down. Keep connecting it up again to the midline. Short stroke down. And there you have it. Can you say that as you write it? Say it as you write it. S, z, s, z. Now this is a clock stroke, but it's a little different because it's the s, z. So let me show you how to make this one. Remember, clock letters start at the 1 o'clock and curve up and over to the 11, but that's the end because this is s for slide, and it's going to Slide over to the 5. It's like a little jumping kid. He doesn't want to stay in the circle. He wants to slide over to the 5 and then end at 7. That's why it's still a clock letter, because it starts at 1 o'clock over to the 11, slide over to the 5 and back to the 7. Now let's say it as we write it. S, z. Did you slide when you made s, z? Good job. The next one. Now this is also a clock letter because it has the curve. But there's 3 strokes in this letter. Now remember, I'm explicitly teaching vocabulary, direction, and everything. This has a clock stroke, a tall stroke, and a horizontal stroke. And this is our second tall letter. The D technically has a clock stroke and a tall stroke. And the F is a tall letter. Because it's tall to start with, we start at the top line, but it's a clock letter, so it's just below the top line. Curve up, touch the top line, and tall stroke down, and touch the bottom line. Then we pick up our pencil, and we make the horizontal stroke from left to right in the direction we read and write. Tall, clock stroke first from 1 to 11, then the tall stroke down and touch the bottom line. Pick up your pencil and go from the direction you read and write, make a horizontal stroke from left to right in the direction we read and write. Now say it as you write it. And this is the last clock stroke. There are 9 in all. E, E. Look at this phonogram. It says E. Now can you say it? E. So you have heard it, you have seen it, you have said it. The 4th pathway into the brain is to now copy what your teacher says onto the paper so you can write the E. This is a short stroke, and it is a short clock stroke with a connecting stroke. Now let me show you what that means. E. You're going to start at the 1 o'clock, up and over to the 11, around to the 7, back to the 5. Then you're going to go back to the 1, and you're just going to draw a line over to the clock stroke. E. You're going to make like a loop. E. Then you're going to finish from the 1 o'clock just to touch the line. E. E. So this is a special letter. It only has 2 sounds. Okay, you've finished the clock letters. Now we're just going to continue on with the phonograms. B, B. Look at this phonogram. This says B. Can you say B? Now I want you to notice what your mouth does when you say B. So we're going to make a tall stroke first and then the curve. So let's write that. Tall stroke down, up and curve around. B. Tall stroke down, up to the midline and curve around. B. Tall stroke down, up to the midline and curve around. B. Now you say it and you write it. Tall stroke and a hump. Tall stroke down, up and hump around. Tall stroke down, up and hump around. You'll notice curve around, hump around. I'm not saying those are strokes. Those are the direction we make the curves. So that's how I introduce it, by showing them and saying what your pencil's doing. The most important thing, look at this phonogram. say it. So they can see it, they hear it, they say it, and then they write it. Then they teach it to you. What kind of letter is this? This is a tall letter. Look at this one. This is another tall letter. It says K. Now you say it. K. And this is how we write it. It's a tall letter, so we're going to use a tall stroke. Start at the top line and go down to the bottom line. And then you're going to go out a little bit on the midline, and you're going to do an angle stroke in and an angle stroke out, kind of like the beak on a bird. Tall stroke down, angle stroke in, angle stroke out, kind of like the beak on a bird. Now you try. I, E, Y. 4 sounds. I, E, Y. Now this is a short stroke with the dot on top. Let's write it. It's a short stroke, so we start at the midline. I, E, Y. So I say the I when I touch the midline. I when I touch the bottom line. E, then you're going to think where to put the dot. Y. I, E, Y. Now you try. I, E, Y. Now the next one. J. J. Now this is a short stroke with the tail. Now let's try. J. Short stroke with the tail. J. And look, it's got that little monkey curve and the dot on top. J. Just one sound. J. Oh, what a wonderful letter. I'm sure you're going to have trouble with this one. No. O is a tall stroke. Start at the top line, touch the bottom line. Oh, say it as you write it. Oh, while you're saying it, pay attention to where your tongue is. Your tongue is touching the palate of your mouth. That's what the top of your mouth is called, the palate. Oh, oh. This is a short letter. Let's start at the midline. Short stroke down, up and hump around. Short stroke down, up and hump around. This is a short letter. Let's write it. Short stroke down, up and hump around. Short stroke down, up and hump around. Did you notice that has 2 humps? Because it's good. The is not. So just one hump. Now when you make the look at your mouth. Your mouth is closed with your finger. I want you to draw a line because the line is first. The line is first. And this is a short letter with a tail. So let's write it. Short stroke down into the basement. Short stroke with a tail. Then up and curve around. So you go up to the midline, curve around, and back to the short stroke with a tail. Short stroke down, up and curve around. 2 sounds. This is a short letter. Start at the midline, short stroke down, and then just a little curve. So I say r when I make the short stroke, and when I go back up and make the curve, I say r, kind of like a rooster. Tall stroke. Now this is how you see it with a typewriter. They make that fancy little curve at the bottom. This is like a serif. I used to teach handwriting with this, but sometimes it's difficult because the F and the T are backwards. So rather than making another way to be confused, let's make it the easy way. You see this, t, and we say t, and it's a tall stroke. Start at the top, go to the bottom line, and then you make a horizontal stroke across in the direction that you read and write. Tall stroke down, and then you make a horizontal stroke from left to right across the midline in the direction that you read and write. And guess what? We're nearly done. A, U, oo, 4 sounds. A, U, oo, Now, I want you to, this is a short letter, and there's 4 sounds. And I want you to make the short stroke, and then I want you to curve around, U, up to the midline again, U, oo, U, oo, Did you notice how I made that? I make the sound when I make the first short stroke. And then I make it the U sound when I go back up to the midline again. And then I make U, U, oo, U. And then when I touch the midline again, U, Start at the midline, around U, say ooh, and you get to the midline again, U, ooh, Now you try. Now you say it. U, ooh, And it's fun when you say because it makes your bottom lip tickle because your vocal cords are making a vibration. And this is how we write angle stroke down, angle stroke up. Angle stroke down, angle stroke up. W, w. Now, w is different because if you look, there's 2 in there. But it's w. It's w. It's not but it's really fun to write. W, w. Angle stroke down, angle stroke up. Angle stroke down, angle stroke up. W. Say it. W. X, z, 2 sounds. X, z. Now this is an angle stroke down. And then you're going to go back and go angle stroke up. You're going to go angle stroke down, and then you're going to go back and go angle stroke up. And I say, x, z, x, z. Notice x is k. That's a 2 phonogram blend. X, 2 consonant blend. And say x like fox and z like xylophone. All right, we have 2 phonograms left. Y, I, E. 4 sounds. Y, I, E. Can you say that? Y, I, E. Now let's write it. Y. This is an angle stroke down. Y. Pick up your pencil, and you're going to start at the midline, and you're going to go angle stroke down into the basement. Y, I, E. Y is the angle stroke down. I is when you put your pencil back on the midline. I is when you go make the short stroke into the basement. E. Y, I, E, because there's a midline, bottom line, and into the basement. So there's like 3 dots. So you can easily say all 4 sounds. Y, I, E. Y, I-E. And the last one, you probably know what this says. Zzz. If you said zzz, you were correct. Zzz. Now I want you to watch how we make the zzz. It's got two, notice them, two horizontal strokes and an angle stroke. Okay? So it's a short letter, but we're going to start on the midline. Start on the midline, angle stroke across from left to right, because that's the direction you read and write. And then you're going to make an angle stroke back, so you can make the last horizontal stroke across. Zzz, zzz, zig, zag, z. Zig, zag, z. And congratulations, you have finished the handwriting section of learning the phonograms. Now, the next video, you're going to be taking a phonogram drill. So this program can be taught, and I taught it to you in 45 minutes because I'm talking to you and all the time. But when you're getting down to business, it's not as difficult as all that. The initial teaching of the phonogram takes more time. But once the child learns a phonogram and they learn to do the drills will build the skill. They can write the phonograms, and then you see which ones they need more practice, and that's where you focus your practice time. So you have your teaching time, your drill time, and your review time. Teaching, drill, review. And so you get them built up. The reason why you teach 3 phonograms at one time is so they can have something to compare it to. If you teach 1, it's easy to forget. If you teach 2, you might get them mixed up. If you teach 3, you start to figure out, well, this one's this, and this one's this, and this one's this. So you want to teach 3 at a time. But I'm so glad you're here, and I'm excited to be working with you. I hope when you look at the screen, it all fits on one page. And that's the skill you're dealing with. I said a lot because I've had 33 years of experience, and I want to focus you into this skill. And guess what? When you're teaching it, you only teach a few phonograms at once. And then you give a phonogram drill, and that's what the next video is, so you can experience a phonogram drill. That's what this program is. You experience learning it, and then you can teach it. And that's why anyone that learns how to read this way can teach someone else how to read. So it's good to have you with me. I want you to keep you focused. I want to give you direction, because the goal is to teach reading to all learning styles so that we can help restore the literacy in our schools. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you on the next video.